Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And this week, I I really wanted to have something else that came to my mind, but ever since Jules got home, she's been on a Ghostbusters binge. So I've just been like talking about Ghostbusters.
Okay,
For the
interesting.
last like
Now,
couple hours.
is this because Jules saw the new Ghostbusters, The Frozen Empire, which, yes, we are sponsored this week by that little boy from Stranger Things who is in that
Yeah.
movie, and Paul Rudd.
Mm-hmm. We're sponsored by the little boy and Paul Rudd independently of their roles
Yes.
in Ghostbusters. It's a triple sponsor podcast. No,
Yeah.
She just watched one of the Ghostbusters over the weekend and had really likes Harold Ramis, so it's on kind of a Harold Ramis binge. So I was just I like Ghostbusters quite a bit. I think it's a good movie.
Okay.
Hot take: Ghostbusters is a funny movie.
That is kind of hot right now, given how frozen the Empire is right now.
But like, I don't have like a lot of. I never like geeked out over the franchise. It wasn't a thing that I like consumed heavily. I just like watched the first movie as a child and then watched it again when I was an adult and was like, oh, this is funny. And then watched like two, and I've seen the 2016 one. I never saw the fucking his sons, whatever, Afterlife, whatever it's called.
I don't even know.
Never saw that one, but I like the 2016 one. I think it's fun.
Can I say something that might lose us a couple listeners?
Yeah, please do.
I have never seen a Ghostbusters movie all the way through.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not even the first one. Now that's the one I've seen the most of.
Yeah, like if you have turned on a TV at some point in your life, you've seen at least like 5 minutes of Ghostbusters.
I have seen probably like 30 to 45 minutes of that movie.
Okay.
And it was what I saw of it was cool. It was like funny. And the thing is, like, I've seen it split up too. It's like I've never seen the movie from the beginning on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I saw like part of the beginning one time, but then I saw like the middle at like 10 minutes of the middle at one point, and then I've seen like part of the ending, but not the last like 15 minutes, I want to say.
Weirdly enough, every time I turn it on, it's just the ghost blowjob. Like, it's all every time.
Every time I turn a TV on, I see the ghost blowjob scene.
Yeah,
it's really fucking. It's
at this point,
weird.
I think my TV's haunted.
Yeah. Which that's like a funny thing to put in your movie, is a guy getting blown by a ghost. It's kind of funny. Which I almost made a reference to the Casey Green strip from however many years ago, the ghost blowjob woo. Google that one if you actually maybe don't Google that.
Kyle, save that for Internet Experience Deluxe.
Sorry, yeah,
okay?
Sorry. No, I don't know. I've never really seen Ghostbusters properly.
That's really interesting. I like it. They're fun movies. I'm not going to say that you have to throw everything out the window until you watch them or anything, but they're fun. They're worth watching.
Yeah, I should watch it at some point, and I'm not like, I haven't like not seen it because I'm like, I don't want to watch that shit. Just like, I don't know. I fucking missed it. I feel like most of the people I know who are like, I don't want to say diehard, but like fans of Ghostbusters are usually people who are like slightly older than me because they grew up with it. Usually that's not like every case, but like I feel like you had to have been like slightly older to have had that movie be like formative to you. And I just like, I didn't see it growing up. I only saw it, like I said, in chunks when I was an adult, and I was like, this seems fine.
And it wasn't the cartoon that you went to when they did the cartoon. Like, you missed the cartoon run and stuff.
Yeah, which I'm familiar with its existence, but I did not watch that as a kid. I didn't see that. I don't think. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ghostbusters, huh? So there's a new one coming out, and they have sponsored our show.
Yeah,
and so of the
go check that out, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
That's the copy they gave us. Is they told me to say,
yeah,
go check it out, I guess. And it says without a plum.
Yeah.
So that's like the note, you know?
Mine says to say go check it out or whatever. Don't worry about it.
They're really trying for like an easy sell. They're not doing a hard sell. It's not like go sit your butt down in the theater, you idiot.
Yeah.
It's check it out if you want, you know?
They're kind of going for a Bill Murray style promotion where you kind of have this sort of Bill Murray attitude about it.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I'm Bill Murray, whatever. Go see the movie or not. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not your dad. Which is the kind of thing that Bill Murray might say.
Yeah, classic Bill Murray riff.
God, can you imagine how good this would have been if I had a ghost-related episode queued up?
Yeah, I figured it was like a like 1 in 4 shot that this would be a ghost episode.
That's the exact. That's like basically the exact sort of percentage chance for you.
So like sometimes you just take a shot across the bow and maybe it'll work out, but. I guess we're not doing a ghost episode this week.
Well, we Niall's been the king of called shots for so many years now.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 400 forward. Now we got to do the fucked up shots. The ones that I
gotta miss all shots from here
every
on
shot
out.
Fired by everyone on this show has to fail now.
The next 5 years is gonna be rough.
It's gonna be tough out there. I hope people are cool with that. But I think that there's comedy in failure. That's sort of like a good angle we could maybe attack this from. We could just like really fuck the podcast up.
Yeah.
Also, not fucking the podcast up, but just wanted to give a quick shout out because we had a nice email. I just wanted to throw out there. Thank you, Malak, for emailing us. And I'm the reason I'm not reading the email in full is because it's basically just praise for campfire stories.
Oh, okay.
This person was saying, I loved the newest episode 400, where you do a D&D adjacent episode. And I just wanted to say thank you for your email. We appreciate the words, and we hear you. We see you. Thank you for reaching. We really appreciate it. It was really just them saying how much they enjoyed those style episodes and how much they want more of them. So we're taking that into consideration. So thank you very much. I just wanted to shout them out real quick. Before we get into the episode proper, which, Niall, I think am I good?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Oh, okay, cool.
We can launch right into it.
That's
unless you have
perfect.
any other Ghostbusters. But I wasn't expecting you to have no Ghostbusters takes.
No.
Having never seen them. So
that
was kind of a curveball.
I'm going to give you one last thought.
Okay.
That series, especially with the controversy, the pseudo controversy, when the one that came out in whenever what did you say 2016, it does give this vibe to me of something I should never have a take on. I should not have any sort of it's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I should just never have any sort of vocalized take on this, because what's the fucking point?
Yeah, there's no need to add another voice into the fucking
everybody has
maelstrom.
said every wrong or true thing about this possible, and I don't need to add to it. So, I guess what I'm saying is, if I ever end up watching Ghostbusters, the first movie, none of you will ever know about it. Yeah, you're not going to hear about it. You'll never
keep that
know.
one even off Letterboxd.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that one close to the chest, because what's the fucking point? So, anyways,
yeah, that's honestly, I think we could bring more of that energy into hot take zones.
I'm staying
forward.
in my lane.
I
Yeah.
have nothing controversial to say about anything anymore.
All right, let's talk about the fucking government. All right,
Yeah. No, this actually is not even close to related to the government. So strike one, Niall.
God damn. See, I'm trying to keep my end of the bargain. I'm missing shots.
That's okay. See, there we go. Perfect. This week, Niall, we're headed south, where the heat and the humidity, it sort of generates, in my opinion, some of the smelliest, biggest, meanest cryptids in the United States.
Oh, okay. Do we got another stanky boy?
Well, this one's not smelly in particular, but whenever I think about the South and cryptozoology, I think of the skunk ape, like naturally. It's like,
of course,
the stinky Bigfoot, of course. Where else would that be but Florida, right? Well, this week we're down straddling Florida and Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, we are actually, in fact, smack dab
One
in between
foot on
the two
each?
states. 1 foot on each, and then our third foot in the grave.
Yeah, sure. Put your dick in the grave.
We're basically kind of not oscillating, but we're straddling these states because this monstrous cryptid is said to lurk in the swamps that run along the Florida-Alabama border and has lived in both states down in a southern sort of area. So this week, we're talking two-toed Tom.
Two-toed, the old triple T, huh?
Triple T. That's actually one of his nicknames. No joke. Triple T, two-toed Tom, the indestructible monster alligator.
I thought two-toed Tom, the indestructible, was going to be his actual name, and that is the sickest thing I've ever fucking heard. Because it is so laced with mystery. Why are they calling out that he only has two toes and also is indestructible? How the fuck does that happen?
Now, I will say, indestructible to me implies that you are, as a whole, indestructible. You cannot be killed.
Okay.
But
so you think that it comes down to you can get down to 1%, but you'll never get to 0.
You'll never die. You'll never die because you're indestructible. Now, maybe that's wrong. These are kind of Magic the Gathering rules of indestructible. But I will say this gator has been chunked away at, according to
some
legend.
people have taken some trophies over the years.
Sort of.
Okay.
None that we can put our hands on, but the way the stories go, he has been, look, I'll just say he's lost a couple toes.
I assumed that would be where you were going. The fact that this is two-toed Tony or whatever the fuck.
No, that's two-toed Tony is Tom's cousin up in Jersey who runs a recycling business.
Is this the namesake of Tom's shoes? Because they're for two-toed people.
What? What are Tom's shoes?
You don't remember Tom's shoes?
No.
The fucking buy these shoes and we'll donate a pair to fucking starving children in Africa or whatever the fuck. Those shoes that were popular when you were in high school.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
They were just made out of burlap and rubber or whatever the fuck. They were
really, I don't think so, but
no, it has nothing to do with that. That was a joke. But I wasn't expecting the reference to not land.
I'm sorry. I there's a lot of things that I remember for no good reason, and then a bunch of shit that I forget. And when I tell you shoes are really low on that list.
Well, here's the thing. I think they may have stuck with me more because they got really popular in youth group circles.
Oh,
okay. A lot of people in my church youth group wore Tom shoes. And made it part of their kind of slightly crunchy evangelical brand,
Okay, I could see that.
There's a crossover between people who I'm basically putting my ex-youth minister on blast here.
I remember your ex-youth minister.
There's a crossover between Dave Matthews fans and Christians that really got
so
into
true.
Tom shoes while I was in high school.
That is so true. You're okay, I know the specific person you're talking about, but
love the guy. He was a very nice man.
No, he was
Don't get
very
me wrong.
nice. I'm not talking shit, but I bet that when you said the things that you just said just now,
Mm-hmm.
lots of people are going, I know that person. Because
Yeah.
person
Played
exists,
acoustic guitar
is very,
for the church worship band.
Yes, very. God,
Yep.
you Christians had it a little different. I mean, the thing is, we did have,
You could say that.
we did have like, I'm gonna not remember. We had a woman, I believe, who would sing acoustic songs, but like we youth group. Okay, help me out here.
Yeah.
Youth group, you would like get together every week after church or whatever to like hang out and like have rap sessions about the J-Man. Is that the idea?
I mean, like largely it was Sunday afternoons. Like you would go home after church and then you would come back at like fucking
God.
5 at night or something.
No.
And you would have youth group and then we would have a dinner that one of the parents would put together and
What
that
the
would
fuck?
lead right into handbell practice.
Oh
And that was
God.
my Sunday evenings for a very, very long time.
Handbell practice? Are you
I
fucking
toured
serious?
here's lore of the It Gets Weird podcast.
I think I've heard this
toured
before.
handbells for multiple years.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a little different for us.
Yeah, a little different.
No handbells, one. But like it would basically be like we would have our Sunday thing in the synagogue. And there'd be like a little lesson or whatever that the rabbi and we were different because we had a woman was our rabbi, which is not typical. And it could
The joys of Reformed Judaism.
yeah, it was yeah, but like we had a lady who would come and like every once in a while she would come to the synagogue like somewhat infrequently to do music with us and teach us songs. But she didn't like lead a prayer circle or anything. And most of the time, like when we'd get together after our synagogue, what the fuck are they called? Not prayer sesh. That's what the youth minister's doing. I'm talking like a service. Service is the word I was looking for.
Okay,
I couldn't come up with service. But yeah, after the service, we would be like interpreting pieces of the Old Testament and.
Oh, see, we had Sunday school as well. So after the service, there was Sunday school, which was with the same people. But then youth group was a separate thing later that evening.
I see the confusion.
It was a bit more like there were games and shit, but it was also like devotional and nonsense.
I see, because we didn't. I never went to any sort of quote unquote youth group. I would have Sunday school, but Jewish.
Yeah.
No coming back later at 5 p.m. to
Christianity is really about just like taking your whole day. Like
cool.
I don't know why, but that's just like if you get involved it like past just like the basics, show up on Sunday mornings and leave, it's like they want to just like take your whole fucking day.
Do you think God is up there? Like, well, Niall was late again to service today. And that's kind of annoying. But the real cherry on top didn't stay till 5 p.m. for the Sunday group. I'm gonna just note that down in my big book of misdeeds that Niall did.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at this. I don't want to say anything too spicy.
Okay.
I just hope he has better things to do.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm sort of like, to me, I love how we're like, yeah, let's talk about this monstrous crocodile. But hold on, can we have like a 15-minute
Tony. But first, let's talk about
discussion?
like the time commitment to various religions.
I don't see. First of all, not a strong. I wouldn't say I care about the question of does God exist. I don't really give a shit about that. So I don't really think about it. But, if you do. My question to you is, do you really think God's up there like, all right, they better be here for a straight 10 hours or I'm fucking pissed. I'm furious.
I would hope not.
That's what I'm saying. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, two-toed Tony fucking stomping around
Two-toed
the
Tony,
Everglades,
fucking
getting chunks
crucified our Lord and Savior. Sorry, I was trying to kind of wrap that into the God discussion. It didn't work. So, so Two-Toed Tom, that's his name. Two-Toed Tony up in Jersey, like I said. He gets called a couple different names. So like you mentioned, Triple T, people will call him Triple T, but he's usually Old Tom or Old Two-Toe. And in the many legends surrounding him, there are varying descriptions, but there's a few key details that are consistent. Number one, he's huge. Just way too big.
Just massive. Okay.
Really big. Number two, he has glowing red eyes.
As is almost required for
You
cryptids
have to.
these days.
You have to.
Yeah.
Are you even a cryptid if your eyes don't glow? Well, that's sort of an interesting question. It sort of puts a lot of cryptids out on their ass. Cryptobotany gets really fucked by that question.
And I think we'd lose phantom kangaroos if that were the case. And I don't really want to live in a world where we lose that. So.
But it is one of those intractable questions for cryptozoology. That is really just fucking up the science. Third thing that's always true about Two-Toed Tom. He only has two toes on his front left foot or claw.
Oh,
or
so
whatever you would call it.
It's only on one. Like his nickname only comes from one limb.
Seems that way. And I think that the legend being on the left hand is kind of interesting. Which maybe we could tie the whole religion discussion back into that, because like there is an element of this that doesn't get talked about a ton, but is casually like mentioned in passing. That Two-Toed Tom is himself a demon cast out of hell.
Oh, okay.
And so left hand, which I don't know where that comes from, but the left hand being the one that's fucked up seems
because of
the left hand path or whatever that is.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what that means, but I know it's like associated with like evil devil stuff. So whatever.
I haven't brushed up on my occult. I finished that book a while ago and have been in an Ancient Aliens book.
You go ahead and crack open a Bible and I'll jump onto the occult stuff and we can see where our paths cross. So
probably in the Old Testament. But,
probably. But yeah, so believers will tell you that Tom was a monstrously huge alligator, and the stories will describe him as anywhere between 14 and 24 feet long. So there's a 10-foot discrepancy here. And it's said that his two-toed tracks were the result of him escaping a hunter's steel trap, leaving behind all but two toes on that left foot. So that's how he got the name. They attempted to trap him, and he got out and mangled his left foot.
How many? Well, My Left Foot. It's a Daniel Day-Lewis movie. How many toes does a crocodile have? How many does this thing lose?
I'm sort of. I don't know. I'm assuming that these are 10-toed creatures, but I don't know that.
Okay.
Shit, hang on a second. I'm Googling alligator.
Because I was trying to figure out if it was like in my brain, it's either 4 or 5 per claw.
Alligator toes. Let's take a look. Alligator.
Give me
1,
them
2, 3,
alligator
4, 5.
feet
Yeah,
pics.
5. There's 5.
Okay, 5. Okay.
So they're
got
5-toed
kind of thing going there.
Oh wait, American alligator, but this one has 4. What's that about? Interesting. So wait, okay, hang on a second. So it's
Do crocodiles
the front.
have 5 and alligators have 4 or something?
No, it looks like alligators' back feet 4 toes, the front feet 5.
Okay, so this one lost
3
toes.
Seems that
because
way.
it's a front limb. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Like, it doesn't really make that big of a difference, but it is interesting to know just how much of a chunk this thing got taken
I
out
think
of it,
for the alligator, it is the extra toe. It makes all the difference.
Yeah, a little unbalanced on that one side,
Yeah. I mean, I know that if I were caught in a steel trap that a hunter had placed, I would prefer to lose back 2 toes over 3 front toes any day. But that's just me. Two-Toe Tom's kind of built different.
Yeah, two-toed Tom is just different.
So people could tell that the way the stories go is that people could tell Two-Toed Tom was up to his old tricks when they would find tracks in these, usually in like alligator slides that had only two toes in the footprint. And these alligator slides, they're also referred to as haul outs or belly drags, which gators, when they enter and I think when they come up out of the water, they'll sort of drag or slide on their bellies, and it leaves behind a distinct trail.
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean now.
Yeah, folks would claim that, they would find his prints in those slides. But there were stories. Gators have interesting like tendencies. So like one of the things that I discovered is that there's something called a gator hole, which is like when the levels of water rise and lower with seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Gators would like dig these holes in swamps to let water come in and fill up the hole. And they basically create this gator shaped hole that they sort of like chill out in because they want to kind of rest in the water. And it actually will like end up serving as little habitats for other animals too. So it's like weirdly important that gators will make these little holes, apparently. And so his tracks have been spotted at these slides, but also around like gator holes and gator nests and basking spots near rivers, things that gators do. So he's all over the place. And the legend, we don't know with certainty when it actually exactly started, which I'll explain in a moment, but I can tell you when it was popularized. Because it seems to have been popularized in the 1934 book written by Carl Carmer, the book titled Stars Fell on Alabama. And Carmer had journalized his travels as he went throughout the state of Alabama. And as he did that, he would catalog people, places, and culture. I believe he was a professor at like the University of Alabama or something like that. Not totally relevant, but he would basically write down and learn about stuff throughout Alabama, put it in this book. So it's sort of like a cultural text talking about all kinds of stuff. And it would include, beyond just like what people were doing and the culture, there would be legends, local legends, superstitions, folklore, things like that. And in those accounts, there would be the story, the legend of Two-Toed Tom, that was told to him by an Alabama man.
So this kind of originated in the local folklore,
yes,
and then kind of got bridged into the academic world with this book.
It's sort of. It's like
kind of.
I don't know whether academic. I get what you're saying, but the book was like a New York Times bestseller type thing. Like it was like a big hit with the broader.
Okay, so the wider
public,
world,
yeah, the wider world.
Than the
so
local
it was
okay.
more concentrated down in southern Alabama before this book was written, and I kind of get the impression that it was like it wasn't really a thing that was written down. It was just stories being told by locals between one another before this was written down. And here's the thing. This initial description of Two-Toed Tom was a meager 14 feet long, which, when I looked it up, not that crazy for an alligator.
Yeah, that seems like a decent-sized alligator, but not, like, unheard of.
Yeah, what seems to have happened here is there may have been an especially aggressive gator in southern Alabama back when these stories started happening, and 14 feet long, that's, like, not abnormal. So this gator may have existed. Whether or not it did the things it did, that's another story. But it grows monstrous. So, only 14 feet long, but nonetheless, this version of Two-Toed Tom was a man-eater. It was said to attack and kill numerous cattle, goats, sheep, and even women and children. However, this is really only the earliest written account of Tom. In a 1987 alternative press article, I found that there is a former reporter and chairman of the Florida Folklife Council named E.W. Carswell. And he was interviewed about the monster gator because he wrote about it in his book on the Holmes County history, and Holmes County being the area in Florida that Two-Toed Tom would eventually go to.
Okay.
And he wrote a book about it and had some stuff in there about the local folks who were passing around stories of old Tom. And Carswell was based out of Esto, which is a Florida panhandle that at the time had a population of 350.
All right, little small area.
Pretty small. So Esto is like, I don't mean this literally, or maybe I do. Esto is like the final resting place of Two-Toed Tom. He starts out in Alabama. We'll get to what happens, but he ends up being a legend in Esto, and that's kind of like where he has become the mainstay. So here's what it says in the article. Quote, Carswell, who grew up in Esto, devoted a chapter to the Two-Toed Tom legend about a gator that used to bellow in response to the whistle at the Alabama-Florida Lumber Company's mill at Noma, Esto's sister town. Carswell said the legend probably is a composite, with Two-Toe blamed for the misdeeds of any and all gators in the area.
Became the gator boogeyman.
Yeah, he is the alligator boogeyman, straight up. The article, there's this weird little tidbit here where the article describes Two-Toed Tom as having, quote, fallen in love with the sawmill whistle, because after it was, chased out of Alabama, which we'll get to, it would end up like living in this lake near Esto, in between Esto and Nora or Noma. And when the sawmill whistle would go off, the gator would bellow. It would like make a big loud noise in response to it.
Okay. So it started to react to this thing, so they say it fell in love. Okay.
Yeah, they say that he fell in love with the sawmill whistle. So we get like closer to an origin point, like a real life origin point to the thing, because the article it interviews a guy named Ralph Dupree, who was a town councilman, and he was born in 1912. So here's what this guy Dupree says about the monster. He says, quote, I've been hearing about this story ever since I was 10 years old. So that would be 1922, sometime in the 20s. He was a bad fella. He killed sheep and goats in Alabama. He would like to have done away with a woman's baby in a cotton patch. So our best guess as to when these stories started cropping up, sometime in the early 20s.
Okay.
It's what this guy says. We can't know with 100% certainty, but it does seem that the stories that were passed on to Carmer were probably given to him around in the 20s as well. So whatever this gator is or was, it seems to have originated sometime in the 1920s, the stories surrounding him.
Okay, so there was a particularly rambunctious gator in the 20s that had a distinctive two-toed like belly slop pattern as it would go into the water.
Yes.
And it became a piece of local folklore. Is what I'm surmising so far.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, every account of this creature, including in the one in Carmer's book, will include these stories of Two-Toed Tom basically being indestructible. And in Carmer's book, he basically describes how after being fought and attacked by what were essentially rifle-wielding mobs, Tom escaped with like a few scratches. Here's what the article says. It says, quote, in his book, Carswell wrote that some boys claimed that they had shot at Two-Toe with .22 caliber rifles and shotguns, but the bullets and buckshot shattered off the gator's thick hide much as dried peas would after being tossed onto a tin roof. Which, if you want to go ahead and get your tin roof and your dried peas out to test this out, I'll tell you what, those motherfuckers will shatter.
Yeah, we really got some. That's some good Foley work. stuff going on
Yes.
there. It's fucking weird. All right.
So this is a monster gator that when you shoot it, it doesn't do anything to him. So you can't kill the monster gator that's slaughtering your livestock, and this is where the stories are born.
Almost like you can't fully get rid of the unknown and what scares you in life, you know? So this is giving shape to that boogeyman that sometimes causes unfortunate things to happen.
Yes. So Karmer, he's getting these stories in the 20s, and the creature is described to him as, quote, a red-eyed hell demon in the form of an alligator. But again, this is like the 14 feet long stories. And the people living in this like Florida border near a town called Florala are afraid of it. Now when he's getting these stories in the 20s, it's also said that maybe stories of this thing had been around for 20 years, but we can't say it for certain. So like, let's put it this way. The alligator boogeyman has been around for a long time. The specific gator may not have been around till the 20s. It's uncertain, but
then you could easily see people retconning older stories to be about the thing they now have a name for in certain places.
Yeah,
that makes the legend grow larger.
It's kind of what it seems like, but we don't know. Now, there's a really weird aspect to this that like I'm just going to say, beyond just being responsible for, eating cattle and just killing livestock and eating them horribly, for whatever fucking reason, there's also stories from this time, like the 20s and prior, that claim that Two-Toed Tom, the alligator, would also sexually assault women. I don't... That's weird. Pretty weird. It just seems sort of out.
Is that a first for a cryptid on our podcast? Like, I can't think of another.
Well, didn't what's his name who bunkered down with the Big Feet family they wanted him to like fuck the Bigfoot wife? He was like, "Here's my Bigfoot cuck chair, come fuck my wife."
Yeah, they might have had the fucking cuck chair,
which like
Bigfoot.
I don't
remember.
I don't think it actually devolved into that, but that was like what seemed to be happening. I think his name was like Albert or something.
Albert Brooks.
Albert Brooks.
No, not Albert Brooks. That's not right. Oh my god. Nope.
No, we're sticking with it. Albert Brooks was kidnapped by a Bigfoot family and almost forced to fuck the wife.
The fucking confidence with which I said Brooks. What was I thinking?
Is it like Ostman?
That name came into my brain.
Like
I think Albert
Ostman is like, I might have the name wrong, but we covered this forever ago, so forgive me. And it was Niall's episode, so really Niall should remember this.
Yeah, I did. It's Albert Brooks. Albert
Sorry,
Brooks
my bad.
Specifically went and fucked a Bigfoot. Albert Ostman, Canadian
Albert
prospector,
Ostman, okay, nice.
Who was captive for 6 days by a family of big feet.
Why the fuck can I remember that? Of all things, I can remember Albert Ostman.
Because it's actually interesting.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair.
Your brain keeps track of things by a level of interest.
That's true. You're right. And I must say, I've thought about the kidnapped Bigfoot man many times since we discussed it. So
yeah. There you go.
So just that's a weird aside that like articles will just casually mention like, yeah, this gator would assault women for some reason.
Yeah, that is not something I've really come across in cryptid lore.
Yeah,
is there like some context of like culturally something that
I don't know.
missing?
It makes me wonder if like the boogeyman extends out beyond gators.
Yeah. Like maybe something non-gator was going on here.
That's what I'm thinking. But it just gets casually brought up and I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird, and it doesn't really get elaborated on. So Karmer's visiting Alabama. They're telling him, oh, this gator is 14 feet long, and then others are like, oh, it's 15 feet long. And I guess this like was maybe abnormal for the area in Alabama. But again, I would like to point out that we've seen gators this size before. This is a real phenomenon. But what they kind of point out, what Karmer sort of is pointed out for him by the locals is that this is different than your typical alligator because most alligators will like avoid contact with humans. They just don't want to be fucked with, and they're kind of shy, I guess. But the lore surrounding Two-Toed Tom is that he is aggressively like going after people in these swamps near Florala, Alabama, and is like aggressively going out of his way to attack all kinds of things, including people.
Okay.
So beyond just being like bigger than your average gator, it's not behaving like your normal gator. It wants to like come out and fight and kill things.
It's a little bit bigger, it's aggressive, and
yes,
it's going to go and do unspeakable things. Okay.
Yeah, and so like, you know, we have like traits too where it's like the legend really grows like, you know, oh, it has these fiery red glowing eyes. But they'll say like, you know, his jaws could just snap things in two. And one thing that I really liked is that apparently with one just lash of its tail, it could flip over a full-grown horse. Which to me,
that was not
like
the
a neat
thing
trick.
that I was. Yeah, that was not the end of the sentence. Like I thought you were going to say like a car or something, but it's flipping over. Well, there wasn't a car at the time, but like
the 20s in southern Alabama, you know.
I mean, yeah, but you normally it would end with. I wasn't expecting it to be an animal.
Yeah,
okay.
No.
I just wasn't expecting it to
well,
be like tail flipping fucking horses.
Oh, he's doing tech deck with horses.
Yeah, he's doing kick flips with fucking horses. What is he doing?
So like, there's these attacks that are happening and rumors are spreading, and so as the rumors spread, so too did this story that the alligator was just abnormal. It was, like I said, there is like an element to it that some people will include that this thing was a demon from hell.
Right.
And so that does also kind of lead to like, well, if it's a demon from hell, maybe that explains the assaulting women thing too. But again, like if you think of it as boogeyman's, you know, lore, it could also just be that it was not an alligator. It was some fucking creep. You know, people grew to become wary of going near rivers and water where like you could see gator prints. It's said that people would see the two-toed footprints in the mud, and that's how they knew to like not go near certain areas. But frankly, I wouldn't go near an area where a gator was, period.
Yeah. If I were just to see either actual gators or just a lot of gator prints, I probably would leave that area.
Yeah.
So I agree.
But people are so terrorized by this thing. It's killing so much livestock and supposedly people and children at this point that at some point there is a bounty. A bounty is placed on Two-Toed Tom's head. And so people are like starting to try and hunt the thing and kill it. But every encounter that gets spun into this legend involves people shooting it, and it just doesn't give a shit. It glances off of it, doesn't cause damage. They'll lay these like steel traps, which it'll either avoid or it would just like set them off and just not be phased by them.
So this thing's just like no selling everything that gets sent.
Yes.
Like it's just fucking not taking any damage from anything that it's getting shot at. It's getting trapped, and nothing is doing anything. Okay.
Yeah. Now, the big story that's associated with this sort of like 20-year rampage that this thing seems to go on is the story of a farmer in the area who went by the name Pap Haynes. Now, this guy had purchased about 40 acres of land from a local lumber company. And he was like initially told by the people there, like, oh, you know, it's just spooky folklore. Don't worry about it. But he finds himself one day coming across one of his mules on his land that had been just just ripped apart.
Just destroyed. Okay.
Yeah, an absolutely destroyed mule. Good blood and guts everywhere. And the blood trail was basically traced over these two-toed gator tracks into a nearby pond. So
okay, so now this thing just ate, like, fucking ripped a mule apart. Okay.
yeah. Now, here's the thing. None of this is like that surprising for a gator to me. Like,
Yeah, like a mule is a little big, but
yeah.
not like not outside of the realm where I could see it, you know?
Yeah. I just think about seeing like gator, maybe they're crocodiles like taking out gazelle and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just am not totally like, I mean, again, we're talking about a gator boogeyman who represents the misdeeds of all gators. So
Yeah, we're talking about a mythical boogeyman.
Yeah.
So
Haynes, in his anger about this attack on his livestock, decides to get his sons to come with him, and they take 15 syrup buckets, and they fill those syrup buckets with sticks of dynamite.
okay.
And they begin...
That's a lot of dynamite. Holy shit, that's a lot of dynamite.
They begin tossing them into the pond 3 at a time. And, you know, again, the legend surrounding this thing is that it was impossible to kill. So they're thinking, we're just going to fucking absolutely just vaporize this thing with our...
Yeah,
with
we're
our
going to turn it
dynamite.
into a mist, a pink mist, as Garrett would say.
Yes. So they set off this dynamite. It fucking upends this like pond and the vegetation and mud and everything nearby it. Just completely
Yeah, you're
fucks it
throwing
up.
just fucking like grips of dynamite into a river. You're gonna fuck with the ecology.
Yeah, and they just fucking destroy the shit out of it. And Haynes is like, all right, well, nothing could have survived that. So we're good. But moments later, after they blow the thing up, they hear screams coming from another nearby pond. And they hear water being thrashed about. And Haynes then goes with his sons and a small posse of 8 other armed local men to find out what had happened. And this story's grim, by the way.
Okay.
Apparently, they see the thing with its glowing red eyes sort of slowly submerging into the pond, the nearby pond. There's blood all in the water. It's foamy from splashing, and they find the torn apart corpse of Haynes's 12-year-old granddaughter laying on the ground out near the pond.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that is dark.
He blows up a pond trying to kill this thing, fails utterly, and then goes to a nearby pond and finds that it's killed his 12-year-old granddaughter. So this would put Haynes on an obsessive path to try and hunt down Two-Toed Tom.
Yeah, he's literally becoming... That is his Punisher origin story for Two-Toed Tom. He's, like, devoted his life to fucking blowing this thing up.
Yeah, it's said that his family, even when his family would, like, move away from the community, he would refuse to leave. He would stay there and attempt to hunt this thing down. And the story goes that he would just die lonely without ever getting his revenge. So
That's...
it's a pretty bad ending.
Well, when you're like, basically he's taking issue with like a concept. Like, I get that there was an individual like being that killed his daughter, if all of this is true, but you're not gonna find that gator 20 years later, you know?
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah, it's a rough end for Haynes, but like it also kind of reads like a one of those like morality tales almost.
Yeah.
Almost, I guess. It's just kind of like, you know, I guess it's like an anti-revenge tale or an anti-murdering, blowing up ponds
like
story. I don't know.
Is the moral like don't hunt,
just let nature take its
creatures
course
that-
or whatever?
Yeah, like if he didn't go out to blow up this thing, then maybe his daughter would be alive. Like,
Yeah.
if you try to turn it into like a simple kind of morality tale, it comes off weird.
Yeah, it is like sort of weird enough that like I do think that specifically maybe what happened was like a child was killed by an alligator at some point, and just like stories spread like crazy
Yeah.
about an evil gator that would murder kids. I mean, I sort of recall in the last like year or so that like an old woman got murdered by a gator in Florida. Do you remember this?
No, I don't.
I think this lady got killed by a gator. A lady got killed by a gator. I'm not remembering correctly, but it's like it's not totally out of the question for an alligator to just up and kill a person, I think.
Yeah, it is within the realm of possibility,
Yeah.
especially a child. Like, you're
That's
just not
small
as big.
enough. Yeah,
It can
exactly.
take you on. Yeah.
So yeah, Haynes dies lonely and fails to kill Two-Toed Tom. That's the
So now the ghost of fucking this guy is trying to hunt down the ghost of Two-Toed Tony.
yes.
It's a fucking afterlife story.
Well, now we get this sort of like moves into we have like a possible explanation for why he could never find Two-Toed Tom towards the end of his like after everything that went down.
I just realized I kept calling him fucking Tony. Two-Toed Tom.
You keep
Go ahead.
talking, like I said, you're talking about his cousin up in Jersey.
Two-Toed Tony rolls off the tongue more. I will
It
say
does,
that.
yeah.
But that's not the name.
They didn't. He's not nicknamed for rolling off the tongue easily. He's nicknamed for having two toes. It turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently, he was such a problem in the area that people would like attempt to hunt him down, and they would have these like parties of people trying to attack him and get him out of there. And so what people think, what believers think, is that
Mhm.
Two-Toed Tom crossed state lines and left Alabama. And so he would go into Florida, into the swamps just on the other side of the border to get away from the people who are trying to fucking kill his ass. And he would end up, he gets referred to in a number of places, the Choctawhatchee River and Holmes Creek swamps. And that would be in Holmes, Walton, and Washington counties around the area in that like Panhandle, Florida area.
Okay.
And this would also be in the aforementioned Sand Hammock Lake by the town of Esto. And that's where people will claim to have seen him just hanging out, basking on the shore. That's where he is said to be heard bellowing in response to the mill whistle. And
So-
some would even say that he would bellow through the night.
So Two-Toed Tom literally moved to Florida to retire.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Cool. And like hung out. Okay. Yeah. So he that's just really funny.
Yeah.
Grew up in the 20s, retired to Florida, and now just like yells at the local steel mill
yes.
or whatever every night.
He can often be found sitting on the beach in a palm print button up, and he's got a Mai Tai and shades on. But he this is where the story like really solidifies, because he would be blamed for the killing of cattle and dogs and all kinds of farm animals in this area. He would be here now. And some even claim that he drove out the other alligators in the area, and that it was just him just taking over the place.
Really? So he like established dominance in the whole local area.
Yeah,
Got rid
and
of all the other people. Okay.
For whatever reason, accounts that would come in of people who claim to have seen Two-Toed Tom would get way bigger. And so, and what I noted about this is it was usually younger people reporting him. So like there's a group of boys who see him and claim to have seen him just basking out on the shore. And they describe him somewhere between 18 to 24 feet long.
Much bigger.
Way bigger. And so again, people would gather posses to try and shoot him and or drive him out or whatever. But once again, he's just like, you can't harm him with bullets. He's indestructible.
Yeah, he's impervious to lead, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the stories that comes out of this sort of time when he was driven out towards the Florida side of the border, it's said that there was a young girl who was walking with her mom along Sand Hammock Lake. And the little girl kind of like jumped ahead to play. And when she did that, she heard her mom scream behind her. And when she turned around, she saw that there was a gigantic fucking alligator that was just lunging at them, jumping onto the path where they were at.
Mm-hmm.
And
terrifying, to be clear.
Yes.
Terrifying.
And so the story goes that this girl and her mother saw Two-Toed Tom like rear up on his hind legs and basically like roar louder than any normal alligator could.
Do alligators do that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And
that seems out of character for like the species. But
I
don't know
think that
well.
they do. I can't confirm that because I didn't look it up, but I've never seen a gator in all my nature documentary viewings do that.
Okay.
So their screaming attracted like local parties of men who presumably are just like roving around with guns expecting giant alligators to fight. And so they run in with a rifle and they fire off at this thing and it collapses. And they're like, oh my God, we killed Two-Toed Tom. And as they come up to it to like inspect it and make sure it was dead, Tom just suddenly jumps back to life and just whips its tail around and knocks all of them off their feet before it runs back into the swamp.
So it was literally playing possum.
Yes.
It was like lulling them into a false sense of security so it can tail whip them all in one go and leave.
Yep. That's the story.
Badass.
That's the story. So that was another one of the stories that would come out of this era. Two-Toed Tom is like well known enough in the region that he would actually make an appearance in. Did you ever have to read To Kill a Mockingbird?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how Lee Harper had a book that just suddenly got published decades after its initial writing in 2015?
I do, yeah.
The book is called Go Set a Watchman. I have not read it, but apparently it was finished back in the 50s, like the late 50s. And there's a chapter in the book that mentions Two-Toed Tom because he's just so well known. Because I think the book takes place in southern Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had never really thought about that, but yeah, it. I remember that book coming out and people kind of it being like a really big thing for a second.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was a giant fucking alligator.
There is, and I remember liking To Kill a Mockingbird. It's been a very long time since I read it, but it's interesting because I guess there's two characters, Henry and Jean Louise, and they're like walking around a river when they start talking about Two-Toed Tom. So it starts with Jean Louise saying, you can feel the river already. And Henry says, you must be half alligator because I can't. And then Jean Louise responds, is Two-Toed Tom still around? And then the book says, Two-Toed Tom lived wherever there was a river. He was a genius. He made tunnels beneath the Maycomb and ate people's chickens at night. He once tracked from Demopolis to Tensas. He was as old as Maycomb County. And the little snippet ends with Henry saying, we might see him tonight.
Okay.
So
it really writes him up as like the patron saint of the county. Like it's like an important historical fucking piece of lore of the area in that book. It feels like.
Yeah, but I think it's cool that like he's so well known in the area that he makes it onto this like legendary authors book. And he would continue showing up throughout the 70s and 80s. Like there would be these sparse sightings and reportings of him. There's actually the reporter, or I guess retired reporter, who was interviewed by AP in the mid 80s that I mentioned earlier, E.W. Carswell. He wrote an article in December 1972 for the Pensacola News Journal titled, "Who Knows? Two-Toed Gator Alive?" And this is where kind of they're speculating, like, well, he may have moved from Alabama to Florida, and that's he's like settled in this area. But he has a couple interesting things to say in his article. So here's a couple snippets. No one, it seems, actually saw Two-Toed Tom do all these dastardly things. It was the presence of that telltale track that convicted him in the public mind. Residents of our South Alabama community figured they'd get him for sure by dynamiting a pond near the scene of one of his alleged crimes. They blasted the daylights out of the pond, along with some neighboring ponds, but old Tom was up to his old tricks. The dynamiters soon learned that he was miles away, stirring up hysteria in another community. And then it goes on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, is that a different time when people tried to dynamite him to death?
What I think this is I think the actual story got like attached like to a legend, right? Like I think that people probably did dynamite ponds trying to kill this gator. But whatever the guy, I already forgot his name, Papane or whatever, Plaptane or whatever. I don't know whether like that specifically is true, but it does sound like people actually blew up ponds trying to kill this guy.
Okay.
So it goes on to say, old Two-Toe didn't go far into Florida, however, at least not for a while, if subsequent reports have much substance. It was not long until someone reported getting a fleeting glimpse of the big alligator in Sand Hammock Lake in northern Holmes County. But, like the Loch Ness Monster, he quickly vanished from view. Someone reported the big gator left an ominous two-toed track on the sand near the southern end of the lake. Few people in the neighborhood at the time doubt that he was actually there. He was a bull gator of enormous size. He was Big Papa in that 75-acre lake. He was reputed to have a harem. Early each morning, you'll see. Early each morning in late spring and early summer, old Two-Toe would begin bellowing, usually at the northeastern end of the lake. If you've never heard a really big bull gator bellow, then you've missed one of life's memorable experiences. It's a deep-throated rumble that easily could be mistaken for the voice of doom, particularly if it's Two-Toed Tom that's doing the rumbling. It can be heard for great distances, maybe for miles, disturbing cattle, scaring mules and horses, frightening chickens and sheep, and prompting mothers to warn children not to stray far from home. Actually, that warning wasn't necessary. Few children dared stray far, not with old Tom sounding off in the neighborhood. Old Tom loved to start bellowing at the end of the lake and move slowly to the opposite end and back. By then, every living creature within or anywhere near the lake acknowledged that it was his turf. Waters of the lake quivered and the ground trembled in the lowlands around the lake from the sound of his deep bass voice. He was a big rascal, all right. Some teenage boys in the neighborhood reported getting a glimpse of him now and then. And this is the account of the boys who say he was 18 to 24 feet long. And then it says, a long drought descended on the region as that summer wore on, and soon old Two-Toed's voice, if that's who he was, could be heard no more. Some of the neighbors, talking knowingly of such things, said it signaled the end of the mating season. Others declared that old Two-Toe was a philanderer of the worst sort, guessed that he had simply grown tired of the female companionship in the old sand hammock and had gone on the prowl. So people weren't content to tell the legend of a monstrous gator. They were also like, yeah, he went to Florida to fuck.
Yeah, they had to make him a fuck machine. Like, especially okay, this is just like a weird thing to like the way that we have to like anthropomorphize animals in this way, where it's like, oh, this big fucker has to also
be a
have
fucker.
A harem.
Yeah.
And he goes to fucking Pound Town every day, and like that bellowing where he's yelling at the thing is him. That's him orgasm. Like, you have to. People add so much stank onto this shit that I don't fully get where it comes from. I like, but it's entertaining.
He feels like they turned him into like a Conan the Barbarian warlord guy. Like,
did he have a fucking like grotto? Was he Hugh Hefner?
Well,
Hefning it up
you know,
in there?
some of the stories state that he like has these tunnels that he's dug because he's a clever son of a bitch, who can like make it like he can be like, you know, look at the stories where they're like, we blew up the pond, but it turns out he was way over here. He apparently can like get from place to place. This dude's a fucking ghost and a sex machine, and he's every like badass trait. You know, like that's the idea. I think.
Yeah,
he's just real beast of a gator. Is what I think is the painting that's being put together here of this critter.
Oh man, yeah, this guy's a real fucking like Don Juan, fucking Rambo, fucking everything.
I just think that people had their like somebody's kid was eaten by a gator once, and stories fucking spiraled from there. And I imagine gators do kill livestock.
There were some people that had some livestock eaten and a kid got attacked or whatever, and then they just talked about it as if it was all the same gator. And 100 years later, we're talking about this like gator having a fuck fiesta in a swamp in Florida,
a buffet of gator sex.
There you go.
So Tom was never caught, and he was never really proven to exist. After all that, you know, like nobody was able to say with certainty.
Sorry, replying to all of that was just, and Tom was never caught. It's just one of the funniest things you could have said. It's like
he continues to go on his rampage of sexual depravity to this day.
This fucking Don Juan de fucking Sod of gators is just
Don Juan de Sod. My God, you're right. Yeah. I mean, he was never found. Nobody was ever able to prove that some monstrous gator with 2 toes was existed.
The 2-toed fuck machine of Panhandle, Florida.
Look, all he needs to get for the ladies is the 2 toes, after all. So
I'm not even touching that.
You shouldn't. Whenever disaster befell livestock in southern Alabama and Florida, small towns had this boogeyman that they could blame for it, along with, you know, they would then start telling stories of supposedly witnessing sets of gator tracks with only 2 toes. So this stuff continues to this. I didn't find modern reports, but his legend is still told. Mm-hmm. To kind of keep the legend going, the residents of Esto, Florida, began celebrating 2-Toed Tom Festival. It started back in 1987 and continues to this day. According to their website, they have a 2-Toed Tom Trot, where they have a small parade composed of bikes, wagons, walkers, go-karts, golf carts, ATVs, tractors, and lawnmowers. And then the website says, sorry, cars, trucks, and horses are not allowed. Prizes are handed out for creativity. You can also buy a 2-Toed Tom tumbler at Esto Town Hall for $25 or 2 for $45. And to this day, there are locals who will claim to have seen 2-Toed Tom, or at least his tracks. Jury's still out on confirming his existence, but here's a couple interesting tidbits that are sort of in Tom's favor. So for one, the story of him bellowing at the train whistle is sort of plausible because gators are known for occasionally bellowing in response to more than just alligators. They've been found to like respond to the sounds of like trucks on the highway, jet planes. All these things will prompt a gator to bellow. So a sawmill whistle could very well be something that prompts a gator to cry out. Here's the other thing. Gator eyes also do glow red at night when they are reflected in light. So it is possible that folks were telling stories of red-eyed demon gators. They weren't completely off base. Like, they could have caught a gator's eyes while walking around with some sort of, you know, lantern or some shit at night, caught the glance of its eyes and seen the gator and freaked out. Very possible. Now, it's the size that is like at a certain point questionable. So like I said, the earlier accounts that are like 14, 15 feet long, that's actually 100% possible. We have seen gators get to this size. I believe the record, the like on record largest gator was in Florida was 17 and a half feet long, which is a big motherfucker.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know, anything beyond that is like, like 24-foot long account of him.
That's
it kind of reads like exaggeration from some boys who were scared by a gator.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before with like, especially in without a lack of like a lot of things to gauge it against and in a heightened emotional state and everything, people have a tendency to really misjudge sizes when it's at any level of distance.
Yeah. So if Tom ever did exist, and was a real gator, then it's also very likely that he's dead now. Gators live approximately 50 years. But again, I would just like to point out the diehards tell you he's no normal gator. There's something supernatural about him. He's a demon. So if he's a demon, he'll live forever.
Yeah, he's still going to be around to fucking cry for the next, however long.
But that, Niall, is the story of Two-Toed Tom, the impervious monster gator from southern Alabama and Florida.
Absolutely wild. All right. I like demon gator is a thing that I totally could have seen being encrypted. I didn't expect the post main career arc where he moves to Florida and set up shop in a fuck swamp.
Yeah.
That's wild. Good for him.
Yeah. It's a compelling story. And I feel like we haven't done a lot of gator adjacent cryptozoology stuff, which there's so much of it. It's usually dinosaurs, which gators are sort of dinosaur-y. But gators and crocodiles are their own subgenre, I guess subgenre of cryptid.
Yeah,
that I'm kind of looking to branch out into. There's actually one that I would love to talk about with Garrett on the show. So maybe we'll try and set that up sometime soon. So that's Two-Toed Tom. Niall, are you ready for a big question?
Always.
All right. You've been hired to help a marketing campaign for a newly developed gator repellent that is basically just an explosive.
Okay.
What do you name this dynamite new product?
Good pun.
Thank you. Do you want me to tell you mine?
Sure. You can go ahead.
So this gator goes from mass killing to mass fucking. And I think the next logical step for this guy, getting crazy into drugs, just going off the deep end. So what you're going to do is you're going to leave out a trap. And that trap is going to be called Whippets for Gators. This gator is going to
So we're going for a short high.
Yeah, this gator is going to be like, oh, shit. I'm going to get high like Steve-O in that one video. And they're going to go and they're going to take the whippet for gators and they're going to pull on it. And when they pull away, oops, they took the pin out of the grenade and it explodes. And that's how I am going to... That's mine. It's called Whippets for Gators.
So what you're looking at here is kind of a Bugs Bunny meets Jackass thing, where you're kind of Trojan horsing in a grenade, looking like a can of whippets.
Exactly.
That you're going to give to this being.
With much love to Steve-O, but yes.
Oh yes, much love to Steve-O. Man, okay, yeah. I think I was just gonna start finding a way to turn the entire swamp into a gravity bong.
That's a great idea. That what better could you be doing with the swamps of Florida and Alabama than?
And if you want it to be deadly, I guess you could make it into
but just for gators, just for monster.
Yeah,
gators.
just it is a poison that specifically. So I guess what I'm looking at is kind of a large kind of if you take the top of a 2-liter bottle and make it really fucking big,
right?
But then also some tablets to drop in the top
Sure.
that create the reaction of a reactive thing that creates the kind of gator poison that you will then put into the gravity bong fill up thing. So like this isn't feasible. I wouldn't say this is a good idea.
I didn't ask for feasible. I just asked for
Yeah,
the name of the product because it sounds like you're trying to bongify a swamp, which
I'm turning a swamp into a gravity bong that is, instead of taking THC, is instead doing gator poison.
oh my god.
So I think I have to come up with a name for that.
I just realized that
is-
bongify is going to be some sort of asshole developed an app for like delivering weed. Like
Oh, yeah.
Instacart
or like
for weed.
what do you can fucking no, that already exists. I was thinking of like there's like that like strain database
Oh,
thing,
fuck,
but
yeah.
that already exists.
No, bongify is going to be like, we're going to like make people deliver for really low wages weed directly. Do you want your Girl Scout cookie
Yeah.
direct? We'll deliver it.
we're
to
we're
you.
gonna we're gonna hire people as independent contractors
Yeah.
to deliver hits.
This
weed for
probably
way too
exists
cheap.
already.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in my
Oh,
mind,
probably.
that's what bongify sounds like. And I'm sorry, I'm trampling over your.
No,
bit
instead
here.
I'm gonna hotbox an entire swamp.
Nice, I love that.
I'm gonna gravity bong a swamp. So I think I have to gatory bong. No,
Well, okay, Gatory bong.
there's not. It's not bad. Like it's not good. It's not a good name. Man, I kind of need to come up with a name for this thing.
I
to
wish-
create a satisfying end.
Well,
to this
I wish
bit,
it was
don't I?
like a. I wish it was like a crocodile, because then maybe you could have it be like chronicodile. Like, or our crocodiles.
There's something about that sounds like Hanukkah, but Chronica
That's
is like,
I think that's what Adam Sandler says in his one of his songs.
oh, probably.
Chronica.
That sounds like a fucking thing. I don't know.
Gator weed.
What's a fuck it. Fuck it. Gator weed.
Gator ganja.
That's better. Okay,
Gator
yeah, gator
ganja.
ganja. Although it's not going to get you high, it's going to kill you.
Yeah,
or
it'll
at least
get
just
it'll
gators.
get everybody high except for gators, who are going to be
True.
the monster
okay.
gators will
Yeah,
be
it turns
destroyed.
so. Okay, then I'm gonna make one slight change to the
Yeah.
text of the this here, and instead of it like making the thing, it's going to turn the gators in that swamp into THC. So that's where the psychoactive component. For
Okay,
people
so they
come
like
from.
can convert it.
It's a conversion
Okay.
process. Yeah,
So this,
yeah. So you're getting high off of
this
smoking.
gator is
a
disintegrated.
gator turned in. Yeah,
I'm smoking on that shit that gave Tom 2 toes.
I got that triple T fucking. I got that triple THC. There you
Oh
go.
my god, triple THC. Fantastic. I love this.
All right, there's the end. That's the kiss off line.
Beautiful.
We got to go on to business. 'Cause We're not
Absolutely.
going to beat that. So if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/itgetsweirdpodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers from Google. I really should
YouTube,
do the new list.
It's whatever. It's
We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on like most major podcatchers. Just look up It Gets
You'll
Weird,
find
and
us.
we're probably there.
we're also on twitch.tv/itgetsweird, which I want to get back to streaming soon. Soon, hopefully, I will be able to do that. And then if you want to email us, get your email on the show, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a cool story. Send us something nice. Send us something we can read on the show. That would be super cool. Otherwise, if you're gonna look, really appreciate the email with the kind words. I don't want to necessarily read that up front but I just want to say very appreciative of the people who do reach out with the kind words.
We really appreciate it. We're too shy to just read straight
That's
praise
true.
for us
Yeah.
on our own show.
but thank
So-
you nonetheless.
We appreciate it.
You can also check us out on patreon.com/itgetsweird. Actually, you can check us out. I recommend checking us out. I recommend getting on there and donating. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you get It Gets Weird TV, where right now we are watching season 2 of The X-Files. We also have a $5 tier where you get another bonus show on the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So at the $5 tier, you're getting bonus content every single week. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord. We're all hanging out, chatting about Bigfoot, aliens, woo-woo, everything under the sun. You can check it out on there. We also have a $1
Yeah.
tier where you just kind of are giving us a tip. You don't get anything out of it. It's just saying, hey, I like your show. Thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1 a month. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.